What if the secret to building a wildly profitable business wasn't grinding harder, but healing deeper? In this episode, we're diving into the growth strategies high impact leaders are using to unlock their team's hidden potential, drive purpose fueled performance, and create deeply bonded cultures that thrive. If you're ready to lead with vision, ignite next level success, and finally stop carrying it all alone, this conversation will change the way you grow. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Kevin Mays. Growing up in Michigan during the GM bankruptcy shaped Dr. Kevin Mays' mission to help businesses not just survive, but truly thrive. As an executive coach, author, and speaker with decades of experience, Kevin has guided hundreds of leaders to build high performing teams and workplaces where growth is a natural result of engaged, purpose driven people. His deep expertise in leadership, strategy, and team dynamics makes him a trusted partner for companies ready to set a new standard of success. His latest book, which is coming out soon, is titled Lead Yourself First. Welcome to the show, Kevin. It's great to have you here with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I am excited and fired up to be here. It's so good to see you and to know that we have some things in common that I think we can dive into out of the gate.
Yeah. I didn't actually put the two together until you got on here. It's like, oh, we have a super big connection there. So we'll let the audience know about that in just a minute. But first, the big question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
I had this dilemma in my head when I was coming of age. Is the most effective way to have an impact from within the system or out of the system? And what I've realized along the way, that the biggest impact a human is ever going to have starts with leading themselves first. Yes, you can focus on the external world, but I see so many people who focus on the external world and have so little awareness of the impact they're truly having. They don't understand the shadow their personality is creating. They don't understand the wake they're creating. And for me, the most powerful thing a leader or anyone can do is start with self-leadership. Understand the patterns that drive your thinking, because those patterns then drive how you feel, and those patterns drive how you behave, and that behavior gets results in your life. I see way too many people who don't want the result they want in their life, and they end up blaming. They blame the tax man, they blame the boss, they blame the spouse, they blame the dog, they blame the neighbor, everybody but themselves. And when I talk about leading yourself first, for me, it's about that fierce ownership of all the results in your life. That's the starting point. Start with
Yeah, choices always have consequences, and you can make any choice you want, but you're going to get the consequence that comes with it. And sometimes the consequence isn't what you think it's going to be. Doesn't matter. It's still the consequence. You
still the
get to own it.
consequence. No, the hard thing is, I see so many folks think they're making free choice. And the reality is, I think it's more like a fish in a fishbowl believes he has free reign to swim anywhere he wants, but doesn't realize he's in this little fishbowl. And most of us are so pre-programmed with all of these ideas and beliefs that we inherited and we adopted in the first 3 or 5 years of our life, that this patterning has been set. And now we make decisions based within the confines of that patterning and don't even realize we're doing it. We're just replicating the same way of thinking over and over and over. And true free choice requires a fierce ability to interrupt that pattern. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable because you have to look at yourself. That's really, for me, the power of leading yourself first.
Yeah, and often people hang on to patterns that they've, as we get older, and there's a large older population out there who have these ideas about the way things should be, but we are in this time period where things are happening so fast and shifting, and we're still trying to hang on to these thought patterns that served us in like the 60s and 70s, which in the 2020s, it's like you're going to get run over and left behind. You are irrelevant
Well,
unless you
I
stay
think
at.
that's so right on. And my experience is the beliefs that we hold most dear and most precious is our self concept, our
Mhm.
ego identity, right?
Yeah.
So I learned, and this is for me the phenomenal piece of science. When we're 3 years old, our brains are forming a million neural connections a second. We are so influenced by the environment around us, and we form our self-concept. So I learned to be the helper, the helpful one, the pleaser, the one who doesn't make waves. Absolutely brilliant. It serves my survival when I'm 3 years old. But now, when I'm 53 years old and I'm still playing the same pattern out and I'm not creating accountability in my organization because I don't want to upset people, I'm getting in my own way. Or
Yeah.
I'm not having that real conversation with my spouse. Instead, I'm just saying, yeah, everything's fine. And there's no depth, there's no vulnerability, there's no connection. I'm the one who's driving the wedge in the relationship, but I project it onto the other person. I think they're the issue. It always comes
I think
back
that
to this.
it does. And it personal relationships, business relationships, relationships with your children.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like relationships between countries.
Yeah.
When you've got a country that's like confused about its identity and what it stands for, and not just the US, like a lot of countries are experiencing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like no wonder there's chaos.
And the hard thing is we're so hardwired for authority.
Mhm.
Humans need it. Our survival depends on it. And it's just so interesting to think in this larger like political arena how we project our authority onto who's ever in charge. Our authority issues or our authority, just our matrix, the way we learn to be with our original authority figure that we needed to do in our 3-year-old mind to get survival needs met. Now we start doing that. Well, that becomes the model, the framework for how we interact with coaches, the teachers, the policemen, and ultimately politicians and leaders and the boss at work. We project all that on to these individuals, and in ways it just completely clouds any sort of true decision making ability, any true clarity, any true back to free choice. People don't make free choice, they make emotional choice. And that is
Yeah.
a handcuff that binds us.
Yeah, and they're easily swayed with emotions.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm. We all are as humans, right? We make emotionally driven decisions and we're easily manipulated. It's hard. How do you suspend and step out of that? That's the question. And for me, that's been my quest. That's my lifelong quest. How do you step out of that ingrained patterning? I see it the most in myself when I am frustrated or irritated because somebody else is being a knucklehead and I know that I'm right. That's when I realized it's not them, it's me. It's me. It's 100%. I'm the one who's irritated. They're just living their life trying to do their thing. I'm irritated. Okay, wake up. How do I want to manage? And what's the source of irritation? I think doing that deep dive, that root cause analysis to understand what's really going on, how my beliefs have been infringed upon because I'm the important one. And now you're demonstrating not listening to me. So suddenly I become triggered and behave differently and become more of a persecutor. And now I'm attacking you, but I think you're the problem. It's a crazy cycle. Or I've seen one cycle. I just talked with somebody yesterday about this hero victim cycle that somebody was going through. They're the hero at one point, they always are the savior, and then they fall into the victim, fall back to the hero and back to the victim, hero and victim. It's like this roller coaster they're on. Exhausting. And it's not intentional, it's not conscious, it's only because of a lack of self awareness.
and that hero victim mentality. Once you understand some of these paradigms
Mm-hmm.
exist and you start looking at your own life and relationships, it can change things so dramatically for you. It just the awareness piece. And I know, for example, in my own life, my husband, he came back. He was a truck driver for a million years, and he retired, and so he's home all the time now. And I started learning about, I can either be a victim and hope for a savior, or I can be my own damn hero and, recognize when I'm falling into these victim patterns. And it's the everyday little things like, chores around the house,
Dishwasher.
dishwasher, dishes in the sink, things that trigger me that he just like doesn't see. But I can either be the victim or I can be an adult and say, "Hey, this is bothering me and I'm feeling like a victim here." And we've gotten to the point where we joke about it. Like he uses all the ice and we don't have an ice maker in our freezer. So he's doing something. Oh, he's grating cheese. He also uses all the cheese in the house. So he's grating cheese. I taught him how to grate the cheese. And I always have to grate the cheese. And I'm like, yes, you do, honey. And you always have to fill the ice trays. I'm letting you have the victim card for that.
It's so funny. I love this story. When our children were young, my wife came home with a newborn and she stayed at home with the two kids. So she had a toddler and a newborn, and I would come home from work, and I remember specifically the toys all over the floor. And I had gotten used to not having toys all over the floor, a certain lifestyle, right? Now I come home and there's stuff everywhere. And I'm thinking, let's approach this as adults. Honey, if you could please be so kind, before I come home, just have the toys picked up. Brilliant. I'm not asking too much. Right? I come home. What happens? I come home one day and the toys are all over the floor. What do I know my wife is saying about me in that moment? Don't care what you have to say. No respect. Total disregard for my opinion, my perspective. I'm unimportant. And in that moment, right, something gets triggered in my head and I start to get short and condescending and irritated. My wife is at home with a newborn and a toddler, and I'm over here worried about the toys, and it's just so
Did she
funny.
offer to go to work for you the next day and let you try to
Yeah,
deal with a toddler and an
right.
infant?
So the brilliant thing is I learned to deal with it myself, right? Okay, fine. I'm going to come home and I'm not going to make a deal about it. If there's toys on the floor, I can be empowered. I just cleaned them up. But I was still triggered. And so now I'm cleaning them up with an attitude. And I'm slamming the toys around. And my wife says, honey, what's the problem? What's wrong? Nothing. we are such we're such fools in our own minds, right? We have these monkey minds that we want to be valid, we want to be important, we want to be recognized. We can become so sensitized to believing we're not. We personalize the world around us. My wife is not making a statement about me by not cleaning up the toys. She's just trying to manage, and I come in and project all of my stuff all over her, and then I'm the victim. She won't clean up. And then I become the persecutor. I become pissed off and angry and frustrated and start to take it out on her, which of course then she reacts. And I say, see, here you go. Here you go again, doing it again. Like, oh my goodness. You can't change other people.
You can't change other people, and it's really hard sometimes to put yourself in their position, especially around things like, you see a newborn baby and you think, oh, they just sleep all the time. No,
Mm-hmm.
they don't, and they weigh a ton. You
Mm-hmm.
try carrying around a sack of flour, 30-pound sack of flour for, all day. And then you have like an orangutan that's running around wild in your house. You got the 30-pound bag of flour and you're trying to like deal with everything with one hand. Not all kids are like that, but I've had
Ours were.
five of them.
Ah,
I
ah.
have an idea of what I'm talking about.
Well, but in my mind, as a leader in a business, hey, that's your job. Just do
Mhm.
your job. That's what so many leaders say too. Just do your job. Why do I have to babysit? Why do I have to recognize every little thing you do? Just do your job. And it never works. People want to
It
be
does.
validated. They want to be recognized. They want to be part of something larger. But it's that ingrained autopilot patterning that we adopt in the first 3 years of our life. The software that's now driving us. I love it. I have this DOS programming that's now driving me in a Windows world. How do we upgrade the software?
Yeah. And how do we have compassion for each other so that we understand what the limitations are that these people are up against when we're trying to ask them to do a job that we think should be done a certain way. And I'm the worst at this. Like, I'll ask my husband to do something and I'll have something in my mind about the way I want it to be when he's done. And it's the hardest thing for me to just let him go. It'll be fine. He'll do it fine. But I want this result. And it's never, if I want the result that I want, I need to just do the damn thing myself.
Well, and that's the brilliant thing that so many people fall into. Fine, I'll just do it myself. And then here we are, the victim again. And I see so many leaders, nobody wants to work as hard as me. I'll just do it myself. And then, oh, they're the one carrying the burden. They're the martyr who has to do everything themselves. And guess what they're teaching their organization?
That they have.
Fine, you're going to do it. Just go ahead and do it. And I'll just sit around and wait for you to tell me what to do. And I've seen high level organizations like where the founder is bringing in 4-star generals to be part of the team. And the 4-star generals are saying, why am I here? If you're just going to tell me what to do, you're not asking for my expertise. I don't belong here. I'm not a fit. And leaving the organization, it's ineffective. Those patterns are ineffective.
They are definitely ineffective. You have, back to the choices again. You can either make the decision that you're going to allow the people that you bring in or that are in your periphery make decisions, the best decisions that they can make. And they're in your organization or they're in your family. Like, your wife is making the best decision she could make at the time. She decided to care for one of those children rather than leave them there crying so she could pick up the toys.
Yeah, right.
I mean, those were her options.
Yeah, how we make decisions. And again, I go back to, how do we cut through that patterning to really see ourselves? We spend our lives being educated to see the world around us and to master and manipulate that, not to become aware. And I see so many leaders who are good at producing a task or getting things done. So they get elevated into leadership, and it's a totally different skill set that they often have no idea how to do. So they go around commanding people, telling people what to do, and it's just not effective. And so it's interesting. It's like, I say the patterns are ineffective. Half of them are highly effective. Sometimes it works. I mean, the person you became, beautiful, but the secret to your success, the thing that got you here, is not the thing that's going to get you where you want to go. It's going to keep you here.
I like companies that they do like to promote from within, but I like companies that really reward people for being specialists in the thing that they're doing. If you have somebody that's really good at a job, don't promote them. Just pay them more. Give them maybe help, but not like don't overwhelm them. Let them be part of something where they can be significant and feel like they're getting validated for being like, they're really best at that. It's much cheaper than keeping on replacing people.
The revolving door. Yeah. It's interesting in our culture how we recognize good performers. And we do that through promotion into a different skill set. It's just an interesting system that we've developed for ourselves that somehow,
I don't think it serves us.
Well, and I've seen folks who are really good managers who aren't good on the shop floor doing the work, but man, they know how to bring out the best in people and direct people and align people and motivate people. But if they're the ones doing the task, they're not going to be effective at it. But because they're not the ones effective at it, they never make it to the manager position because you have to go through that to get there. Two totally different skill sets, and somehow in our culture we combine them as one track that it definitely can underserve us, that's for sure. So for me, I love it. I go back to the $1 million question, and I spent a lot of time in monasteries and in meditation retreat centers trying to figure this out. How do we peel back those layers How do we cut through that narrative? If there's, the way I see it, we have these ingrained patterns. This, I call it the robot self. That's just when you sit down to eat, you don't think about what hand you're going to use to pick up your fork. You automatically do it. And we have these self concepts that are that deeply ingrained, but they're changeable. And then, so we have that kind of robot self who just moves through the world a certain way. And then we have the caveman self. When things don't go our way, the limbic system takes over and this reactivity comes out. And suddenly we get short or condescending or shut down or uproarious, whatever the thing is. Neither one of those are the best version of ourselves. They're adopted patterns. So if we're going to cut through that, well, first of all, how do you cut through that? And secondly, what do you do instead?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Like, what do you do instead? How do you decide how to behave or what to do if you're not going to let the old patterns dictate how you show up? What have
You
you
have to
found that
make a
works?
decision. In my opinion, it starts with a decision that I am going to change how I react to these things. And then you
Mm-hmm.
start looking for help. And, maybe people come to you, corporations would come to you,
Mm-hmm.
and individuals might come to you if they're looking at up-leveling their game in the business world. And it's taking personal responsibility for your thoughts and actions and words. And and mostly it starts with your thoughts, how you think about things and how you approach things, not from a judgmental state. It's like you don't beat yourself up for having these thoughts, but the first thing is recognizing that these thoughts exist in your head, to me.
Yeah, right. I think it's so dead on. I think of the objective observer, learning how to cultivate that objective observer of yourself. Like you're sitting
Yes.
in a movie theater watching the movie of your life and realizing that it's not you, it's just patterns that you've adopted, and being able to detach from it and watch and see the cadence of the patterns over and over and over. And again, recognize that it all, as you said, starts with your thinking. I love it. In Christianity, what do they say? It all starts with the word. The first teaching of the Buddha was with our thoughts. We make the world. And the thoughts that are most precious to us, that we're most attached to, self concept. There's our ego identity. And so it's so easy to fall down that slope of attachment. And then that's really where I think the work is like, oh, the attachment. How do we let go of the attachment of needing to be right, needing to be funny, needing to be important, needing to be the hard worker? Because when I was a kid, if I was a hard worker, dad liked that. And so I got my attention needs met. That laid down a billion neural connections in my brain. Now I've got marching orders for the rest of my life. And I'm always the last one there and the first one in. And I'm the one who's going to take it on. But guess what? I'm creating this culture of disengagement through my autopilot patterning. For me, the key is if you're not going to let that autopilot drive you and you're going to stay out of the caveman zone, manage that, kind of have that emotional awareness, it goes back to what you're saying, the decision making, or I think about having a clear vision of who you want to be and aligning your decisions with that, aligning your decisions with your vision of who you truly want to be, and recognize that. And we get so caught up, right? I mean, we have one shot at it. You get 100-year shot, 100-year gift. And I find people spend so much time struggling and suffering in life, and it's of their own making. We suffer because of our attachments, of how our expectations, and how we want things to be, and how we think things should be, and how others should be.
It's thinking about our thoughts. It's
Yeah.
judging our thoughts. It's like
Yes.
not every thought that comes into your head deserves your attention. It
Mm-hmm.
can just come in and go out. You don't have to even acknowledge it. It's
Yeah.
just like, because we have thoughts all day long. I mean, things are always happening in there, and you're always talking to yourself one way or another. And, sometimes you can just say, I'm not available right now for that.
Well, and one thing I found myself doing is when I observe, I start to recognize these old patterns, right? I learned to behave in the world a certain way that when I did that, it made me okay. And when
Mhm.
I don't do that thing, I start to fall into self doubt. My ghosts come forth, and I feel like I'm failing somehow, or I'm a failure. I don't measure up. And what I've learned to do is just notice, oh, here it is again. Oh, here's my old friend. Here's that ghost. And I think of it as a ghost because it's just fleeting. It's not real. It's an apparition in my mind. Oh, here it is again. Oh, there's that self doubt. Oh, here I am beating myself up. Here I am feeling like I'm not smart enough, like I'm an idiot. Oh, okay. And with that, it kind of that awareness pops the bubble for me, right? Just being able to be aware and not take it so seriously. It's just a thought I've created. It's my programming. And guess what? The programming has some viruses. There it is. I don't have to lose my cool about it. The old model is, though, what happens? You get upset over being upset and you kick yourself over kicking yourself over kicking yourself. This is downward spiral of depression and anxiety and shame and guilt and all of this stuff. And it's just we have so much more ability, I think, to manage than we know. If you learn some core skill sets. For me, like so much of it is learning how to be present, how to be aware, and then how to align your thinking and your behavior with that vision of who you want to be. Sounds easy.
It does sound easy, and it really, honestly, it is easy. But it's also helpful if you have others around you who are kind of walking that path or have walked that path that can help you. Just today I have an example of this. I tend to spiral off on things that are happening in the world, and it's not good for me. It puts me in a place that I don't like to be in. And she just said, Jill, there's only things. I think you could just think about things that you have control over, and everything else is just going to be what it's going to be. I was just like, oh, so thank you for that
Focus on
reminder.
what you can control, and why spin your wheels on stuff you can't control or even influence. But you can expand your circle of influence if you focus on it. So many people I find, well, the seeds they plant in their own mind. I used to love to listen to NPR. And after a while, I started to realize every 20 minutes on NPR, they have the death count. How many people died in what war? 27 people died in Israel, and 16 people died in a bomb here, and a wildfire here. So I'm continually putting this into my psyche. Guess what? With your thoughts, you create the world. Now I'm living in an anxious world. What if I just turn that off? I love it when you look at national politics too, how inflamed people get. When you turn off your TV, I live in an amazing neighborhood where people look out for each other. When everybody watches their TV and they get inflamed and impassioned, we have people who won't talk to each other. When you turn that off and just have real conversations with real people, it's phenomenal how transformative it can be.
Hey, that's Substack for you.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
People turned off the TV and you could just have civilized conversations about stuff that's going on without having to be like totally entrenched in my way is the only way, because that doesn't work in the world.
It's fear-based.
Yeah, it's really fear-based, and
but it creates for people, that fear is a powerful motivator, and then it creates a sense of us and a sense of belonging, and it really evokes some of those ancient human needs and desires, because it's truly a survival need to fit into a tribe. The worst thing you could do eons ago was not be executed by your tribe, but to be excommunicated, exiled, where you're sure to die because you must be with other people to survive. And now there's these strong tribes and identities, and I love it. In northern Michigan, there's a blessing of the bikes that just happened, where all the bikers show up from all over the place, from all over the country, 10,000 motorcycles. And it's amazing to see. Everybody has the same uniform, anything black, and anything with two wheels, and you show up and you're immediately part of the tribe. And it's just phenomenal to see that sense of belonging and kinship, that people who would otherwise maybe have nothing in common, but they show up now and they have everything in common. They're part of the brotherhood, the sisterhood. We all want that belonging. And the crazy thing is, I go all the way back to when we're 3 years old and we're figuring out how to get that belonging. And that gets wired into us. So much of it is often based on like our birth order. Oldest children behave different. than youngest children. We find our belonging comes differently. And so I see a lot of leaders who are oldest children, who are the family hero. Everything relies on them. And then what happens? Everything has to go through them. And they become the choke point or the bottleneck in their organization. And they're the ones who work the hardest and the most responsible and the diligent. Others might start to feel micromanaged. I work with youngest children in organizations, and they're creative and they're fun and they're pleasing, but they're not the ones who really create solid accountability in their organization. They create places people want to be, but the results maybe aren't as efficient as they could be. And again, it goes back to noticing, you didn't come into the world with that kind of patterning. You adopted that, you developed that, and now here it is, decades later, playing itself out. And so one thing I want to just mention, I created, that's why I spent a lot of time creating this Vision Mastery Playbook. So I want to put it out there, free download for people, get it, think about, and it's really specifically for your leadership vision to think, who do you want to be as a leader? When I say leader, I'm not talking about a position in an organization. I'm talking about how you lead yourself, how you lead your life, how do you influence others? To have a guide to be able to help reset, to say, if I'm not going to be in these autopilot patterns, and I'm not going to be in this reactive caveman state, what is going to be my North Star? To actually write that down. It's interesting, Joe. I've seen almost every organization, of course, has a clear vision.
Vision statement.
Yeah, vision statement. Teams will have it. The majority of leaders, the majority of humans don't. They just react to the thing that happens around them with no guiding principle, no North Star. What if you created a North Star? What would the impact be? Who could you be in this lifetime? And I've seen folks who've done it radically transform how they show up in their life. It's just phenomenal and warms my heart.
I love it when people make the decision to be something. And it's really about that. It's what's your identity, and just embrace it. The world needs everybody. We're all integral. That word's not coming out today. Integrally related, and we need each other. We need each other to be the best we are, not the best we are told we should be. Just showing up with who you are and owning that, but knowing who it is, as opposed to being pushed into, or allowing ourselves to be pushed into a box that doesn't really feel all that great for us. But we do it because we feel like we have to.
Well, and that's so much of the programming, though, right? I mean, think about big boys don't cry. I'll give you something to cry about. And if boys at a young age, and many people have experienced this, boys, you don't show emotion. So boys grow up to be men who don't know how to be aware of emotion because they learn to be stoic. Women, on the other hand, have a different model they're cut from. Women are allowed to show the vulnerability, but a strong woman is an angry woman, is a bitch, right? Oh, you don't want to be that. So you learn, and I worked with one woman, powerful CEO. She would get so angry, she said she would start crying. There's the old programming playing itself out. And then when those moments, she's afraid of looking weak or vulnerable, and people would misinterpret. She's crying, she's sad. No, she's mad as nails. And that's how it comes out. But it's just so interesting. We fit into this world of who we should be. And now how do we shed that? How do you let go of that and become the person you were born to be? Because most people, when you ask them, they're just going to replicate the pattern because that's comfortable. Sure, I'm just going to be more responsible, be more diligent, more hardworking, because that's what feels good, because that's what got me the affirmation. And sometimes the real us, we have to go through some discomfort to find it. I say, if you're going to cross the river, you're going to get wet.
For sure.
So here's the getting wet, right? Life is messy. Life is messy. Welcome to the mess. Step into the mess. And that's the way to really kind of find on this adventure, to find your true self, right? So many folks I find as they age over the course of their life, what happens? They get more entrenched in those patterns and those beliefs. And then you see that cantankerous old SOB who is stuck and always unhappy. always cantankerous, always unhappy. Nothing's ever right. Nothing's ever good enough. Everybody else is the problem. And then you find people. So what happens? Those same patterns we adopted get tighter and tighter and tighter and constrain us over time. Our worldview gets smaller and smaller. But then you find people who learn to have a different relationship with those core drives, right? As opposed to attachment, they learn to become detached. They learn to let go. And you find people who have this ability to age into wisdom. To me, that's leading yourself first, is to understand how to gain wisdom within yourself and how to let go of expectation, let go of your attachments, and to truly be in the unknown in this moment. It's powerful. And to be able to kind of be squeamish in your own skin sometimes, right? And be okay with that, because that's the way life is.
And it makes aging better.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in my life, I would not trade it for anything. At 65, it's like the world is great. Human beings are amazing. They're all different. They all have something amazing to offer. And I love getting to chat with them about what they have to offer. But it's just, I don't have to take ownership over it. I can just let them be. And when you can just let others be, God, there's so much magic in that. For one thing, you don't have to take,
just witnessing people for who they are, not trying to mold them into your expectation of who you want them to be, which is the hardest thing in a personal relationship, right? We fall in love with the person who fulfills something in us, our idea, our expectation. We don't really often love the other person. We love our idea of the other person.
Yep.
And true unconditional love is letting them be who they are, even when they don't fit your idea. A lot of marriages can't withstand that. People don't understand that difference. And when the person stops fitting into their mold, then they want out. And they never see the person for who they are, a real human being.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
It is tough.
It's a wonderful
That's
path
really
to walk, though. For me, it goes back to, I took my family to Greece earlier this year, and we were studying Socrates and the Sophists and all the ancients to understand and walk in there on the ancient agora where they, Socrates and Plato used to hang out, and Aristotle. It was phenomenal. And to see bringing to life the unexamined life is not worth living, as Socrates said. What does that mean, to be an examined life? What does it mean at a deep level? Because everybody can say, yeah, I've examined my life, and I've yet to meet anybody who just says, no, they haven't. Everybody says they do. And they're right? And everybody else is wrong in the world. No. We had learning to look at ourselves and let go of needing to be right and really examining the patterns in our thinking and our feeling and our behaving. It's a lifetime pathway. It's not a one-time fix that you just get it. It's like a path of evolution. And I love that question. How are you evolving? How am I evolving? How are the people listening? How are you evolving? Who are you evolving to become? What's your vision?
And it doesn't have to be like some concrete goal that you have to achieve. It can be a little bit ethereal. It's like, this is my idea of right now, because it changes and it's always moving away from us. But being good with that, but moving in a direction that's not stagnant and not
reactive.
Yeah, that's very reactive, where you're just like trying to fend off all of the things that you don't want versus moving towards what you do want. Because moving towards what you do want brings in gratitude, and gratitude changes everything.
Gratitude, our state of mind. Well, and it goes back to that reticular activating system, right? I remember when I decided I wanted to buy a Jeep Wrangler. And I did research on this thing, and finally I found the one I wanted. And oh my goodness, before I bought that thing, I started realizing everybody at the same time must have just bought a Jeep Wrangler, because now they're everywhere and I never spotted them before. How has that happened? It's the state of mind, that internal filter. So I love when you talk about gratitude. It's the same thing. When you have a gratitude as a state of mind, guess what world you start to live in? A grateful world, an abundant world. But it all comes back to that cognitive framework. How do you, and if you're frustrated and angry at the world, you're going to live in an angry world. If you believe people are going to harm you, you're going to live in a scary world. If you believe people are untrustable, you're going to live in an untrusting world.
Mhm.
With your thoughts, you make it all. So isn't it brilliant? I love that to come back to look at. Well, the thing that really gets me, I realize whenever I'm irritated at somebody else's idiocy, foolishness, knuckleheadedness, again, 100% of the time, all I'm doing is projecting from my own mind onto them. I project from my own mind onto everything I experience and perceive. And to recognize that what I'm seeing is not the actual thing, I'm seeing my interpretation of it. And through my interpretation, it's evoking an emotion, which may be anger, maybe rage, I can't believe it. But it's then what am I doing with that? Then I show up rageful based on my interpretation of what they're doing, and I drive the wedge in between us. I perpetuate the problem.
So how do you help people? Do you do you do coaching for companies? Do you do coaching for people one-on-one? How does all that look?
Yeah, primarily it's through companies working one-on-one. It's executive development. I say executive meaning, yes, it's about leadership. And it's about, often I'll start at the top of an organization, because if we start in the middle and the leader isn't on board, it's not going to work very effectively. But I also say executive because it's helping understand that executive function in your brain, your prefrontal cortex, gaining mastery of that. So I enter into organizations and help their leaders learn how to lead consciously. And then I work with teams because I grew up, I was the youngest child in my family, always had groups around. And my natural wiring is to be able to understand and notice human dynamics at play, interactions, and to be able to label them. And then I studied it, right? And I was a group therapist for a long time before I transferred all that into an understanding of executive team development. So yeah, I go into businesses. A lot of them, I'll work sometimes with smaller business owners who are trying to scale and help them know how to build a business, because I've worked in business for a long time. But also I'm a psychologist, a recovering psychologist, I like to say. So I understand also that the biggest obstacles aren't just business metrics. It's about how we're working together and how we're thinking. And so I have different programs. I have one called the Business Academy. I have the Leadership Ascent. I have different programs depending on what the need is in the organization and what results they're trying to get. And we'll help the organization move that direction and get the result. But I love it. Often we start with understanding what they think they want, what they think they need, and then, what they think they want, and then give them what they need, which may be very different. Because again, we tend to project out the problem and often misunderstand what the real issue is. And often the issue isn't out there at all. It's in here. So I love it. I have this vision. And after growing up in Flint and watching what happens when the world's largest company goes belly up, and watching the erosion of the community and the infrastructure, and watching what happened, just the decay that happened, I made a commitment early on in my life when I saw that this does not have to be the way it goes. That was a choice humans made, and humans need to learn to make better choices. So that's been my push. That's been my reason for being, is to help create vibrant, sustainable businesses where people thrive. You spend a third of your life in this place. My God, it should be fun. I talked to somebody yesterday who said, my business has no soul and I'm not interested in being there. I'll go there and just go through the motions. And I said, what's that mean, no soul? He said, well, I was out yesterday after work and I could smell my neighbor having a barbecue. And he said, I started reflecting. I worked at a place where they used to do barbecues at work, employee recognition, team building, just actually knowing each other. He said, where I'm at now, none of that happens. They couldn't care less. All it is get more, get more, get more, get more. And this is the changing paradigm that I think, I love it. There's this talk about the next generation, they're lazy. No, they have their values straight. We're now workers, and it's all part of that industrial revolution model, right? The new paradigm, everybody's a cog in the machine, and your job is to be loyal to GM and to do this for 30 years. So I think part of what happened when GM went bankrupt is that it instilled a whole new value system. Like, no, the organization, you don't work 30 years and get a pension like my father did. That doesn't happen anymore. You have to look out for yourself. The organization is not looking out for you the same way it used to. And maybe it's whether it's good or bad, that's the change. And when I see leaders say the new generation is lazy. In my mind, what I really hear is there's a lot of bad leaders out there who don't know how to manage true needs that people have. And so that's the work.
And they don't offer opportunities for people to be really good at what they're doing. I, I have a daughter who's 21, and she works for Amy's Kitchens, and they're a factory, and she's had lots of experience. She got out of high school at 16. She worked for Casper's Ice Cream. They make Fat Boy ice cream. Um, and so she kind of has been in food, and she went from there. She was a night baker for a grocery store. So she's been in food for probably like 8 years now. Um, she loves this company. She's been there for a year. They have Amy's Bucks. She loves the people she works with. They all go out after work and do stuff together. They don't have to do that, but they
Mm-hmm.
want to do that because they like each other. And they have buddies. Their training system is a system of buddies. And it's just like they they really have something good going on there. There's not the complaining or the "God, this is really hard work and I don't want to go to work." It's like this
Mm-hmm.
is fun and we're having a good time and we enjoy each other, and I look forward to going to work and meeting new people and having friends, and we all have this one big mission that we're on to make food for other people. Just kind of a nice thing. But
Isn't
you
it
know,
something when there's clarity of the mission and the vision, and there's nobody getting in their way and letting them show up and do the thing? So I think part of the difficulty too is a holdover from the Industrial Revolution where everybody has a job description, and that's effective and important. But then I see too many organizations that try to fit people into this job description and don't really leverage the wisdom and the power that they're bringing because they need this little job done. So, and they don't appreciate what's in front of them. They miss it. They miss the opportunity.
yeah, and you know, everybody starts at the bottom in most of these places, but they allow people to move laterally and not necessarily up, but you can move laterally and you can do different things so you're not so bored with like
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Because human beings, we need variety in our lives. We can't just have, we're not robots. We can't
Well,
show up
that's
and just like put
well,
stuff
it
on
goes
the
back to
belt.
those deeper needs we have of well, it's interesting because the old school was the old model of scientific management that humans are intrinsically lazy and don't want to work. And your job as the leader is to beat them with a stick and give them the carrot and induce them, the carrot that is, and induce
Mhm.
them to do the work they need to do. And over time, that is shifted into this real humanistic model where we realize people want to solve problems. That's just a natural characteristic of primates. We're curious beings at our best, left to our own devices. We want to be curious. We want to learn. We want to contribute and be part of something larger.
Mhm.
In fact, the Gallup organization, what do they say? Roughly a third of people actually show up and give a rat about their job.
Mhm.
That's not the way they show up day one. Day one, it's a new chapter in their life. They're excited to be there. They're excited about this, what they're going to be able to bring. And then we beat it out of them in our organizations. We beat it out of them in our leadership. We beat it out of them in our own reactivity and don't even really notice that it's us and not them who are creating the problem.
Yeah. And it ends up costing you because it's expensive to hire new employees
Mm-hmm.
constantly. And if they're calling in sick all the time, then, even with your point system, you can lose really good people if you point them out
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
something happened beyond their control. And it's just like, it's interesting to look at different ways different systems work. All of my children have jobs in different fields. Like one
Mm-hmm.
works for Nucor, and I like some of the things that Nucor has in place in terms of motivating people. Everybody works for minimum wage, but they pay these huge bonuses on production. So people work. They want those production bonuses.
That's
And
fantastic, right?
I I thought it was genius. Everybody starts in T-post. T-posts suck. It's just, you're going to be there for 3 months. Get over it.
Yeah, right. That's just the way it works in the organization. It's brilliant, though. I've seen too many organizations, however, will say, I'm paying you, do your job. And while there's the salary is a great motivator and people will work harder if they're bonus based, at some point too, uh, unless the organization is also recognizing the human element, right? Now, so many organizations want to look at the next morning or the next quarter's financials and the stakeholder and shareholder value and all of this stuff. Great, but it's an organization of people for people to a human end. And to what extent are you creating this culture that they want to be a part of? Or are you creating one where they just show up and go through the motions? It's up to us as leaders to create that.
Yeah. And, I've been talking about like big corporations, but there's, this works in the mom and pop level, or
Hugely.
even if you've got like just a couple people in your organization. They need validation and they need purpose.
The hard thing is with entrepreneurs, they are good bootstrappers. They raise up their business by doing everything themselves. Yep. And then they bring somebody else on and the other person isn't going to do it the way they did it. And nobody's ever good enough. Nobody works hard enough. And they end up getting frustrated and cycling through staff because nobody can cut the mustard, and they don't realize part of it is, well, a large part of it is them. It's them. Yeah.
And sometimes, because I fall into this category, you can make the decision that you just want to be a solopreneur and you don't want to have other people, and recognize that there are limitations to that. If you don't, I personally don't want to grow. It's not I'm at a point in my life where I really am happy and I don't need to do anything. My needs are taken care of. So I can do the things that I want to do, and I can share what I want to share, and I don't have to hire a team of salespeople and train them all and work, 80 hours a day. And no, that's not what I want. That's not my goal. And so I can be happy doing what I'm doing, but recognizing that this is me. And not get, I've talked to other people that, they get involved in this whole, you're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and you're gonna make, 10, 20, $1 million a month, and you only have to work like 9,000 hours a week. They don't tell you that you have to work 9,000 hours a week, because there's a learning curve to get all those things, and you don't have the support staff to do it. And the gap between just being a solopreneur and those kinds of income, there's a large learning curve, and there's a large, I say learning curve in terms of forming a company. You have to bring on people and train them, and you have to have systems, and you may start with, outsourcing some of it, but scaling is not for the timid.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's why kind of one of our core flagship offerings is that 5-step to grow your business, the business ascent, that really takes people through soup to nuts, how to get to a place where you can scale and replicate and franchise and have a business that works without you. Because for so many business owners, I know plumbers that, hey, they were working for somebody else, said, hey, I could do this better myself. But what happens? They don't end up owning a business. They just own their own job with all the headaches that go with it, until they start to think like a business owner. And there's a shift that happens when they learn to work on the business, as the saying goes, not just in it, learn to work on it, and then start to have a dashboard, understand your financials, start to understand sales and marketing, open the taps and get new customers coming in, and then build systems and processes, and then build a team that can replicate it. There are some steps, methodical steps you can go through. It takes time, it takes work. But it's beautiful. The payoff, if you decide to do that when you get there, can be pretty effective. The thing I circle back to is, what is it that drives us to want to do that in the first place? And it's so much, you think about humans in and of themselves, historically, before industrialization, that wasn't a thing. We weren't worried about more, 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 more. There wasn't having. Now we're so concerned with having. We find our identity external. We don't know how to be self-aware, self-possessed, and be okay. And or we're just playing out the drives of trying to fill the hole because somehow we don't feel like we're okay if we don't have more. And how do you develop that contentment? For me, that goes back to our vision. Like you're talking about the self-concept, and part of it is aging, right? Wisdom, because you probably weren't that same person 30 years ago.
No,
There's a hunger in you. You want more, want more. Okay, great. But ultimately, what's the game? Where are we going here? We're going back to where we came from before we were born, right? And I don't remember what it was. There's something back there, I believe. Who knows? But it's not like the one who dies with the most toys wins. So who does win? The one who lives with that gratitude, I think, because then you create that impact, the positive impact in the world, and you leave that legacy.
Yep.
This is a great conversation. I just love connecting with you today, Jill. This is wonderful.
It has been amazing. I really appreciate you showing up today, Kevin. So how do people find you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Easy, just go to the website, Mays Leadership, Mays Leadership, like plural of May, maysleadership.com. Go find me there. And again, I would invite everybody, download. I put it together just because, a quick story. When I was young, I'm trying to think of the first time I really developed this clarity of how important mission or vision was. I remember at one point I read a book. I was way into studying vision, visualization, all this stuff. How do you create your life? How do you manifest? And I remember reading a book and trying this exercise and put myself in this situation in my mind's eye. Okay, I was like 19 years old. I want a sailboat, sure. And I saw myself on the boat, on the Great Lakes. My friends are on it. The sun is setting. And then forgot about it. I got caught up in the day to day of everything going on. And I remember a couple of years later, I was on my sailboat with my friends on the Great Lakes. And there was like this portal that opened up in my mind. And I realized that what I was experiencing then was the same vision I had created in my head years ago. And I realized, man, the world is a mysterious thing and it doesn't work in logical ways. And when you understand how to create vision, how to be the person you want to be, it's amazing what's available to you in this lifetime beyond anything that you can conceive of right now, because our conception is based on our past experience. We have this tendency to believe there's this linear thing, but linearity is what we create as humans. It's not the reality of how things work. It's much bigger than that. So download the Vision Mastery Playbook. Spend some time thinking about what impact you want to have. That's the one thing I would recommend and invite people, challenge people, get clarity on your vision. If you want some help along the way, my goodness, this is the work of my heart and my life. So reach out. Easy website or easy email to kevin@maysleadership.com. That easy.
Perfect. Thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.
To learn more about Kevin and to get your copy of, what was the name of that again?
The Vision Mastery Playbook.
The Vision Mastery Playbook. Be sure to visit maysleadership.com, and the Vision Mastery Playbook, the actual address for that is vision.maysleadership.com, and I will put both of those in the show notes below. Thank you all for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or you're interested in starting one, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this leveraging Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.